So today we're going to check out the Friedman BEOD Deluxe overdrive pedal, sort of an upgrade from the original one, and I did a video on that a few months ago. And the only difference is this one now obviously has 2 channels and a mid control, which I really wanted from the previous one. The tight switch has also, well, tight knob has also been replaced with a 3-position switch. So in the middle, it's off, down is like halfway, up is all the way on. And what the tight control does is actually roll off some of the bottom end, just tightens up your bass response. Kind of like how running an overdrive pedal into the front of a high gain amp would tighten up the low end, just without all the mid-range hump and the volume increase. The way we're going to be running it today is we're going to run it through my Helix. One patch is going to be modeling a Soldano SLO 100 running into a GGD Cali 4x12 cab, which is based on just a Mesa oversized 4x12 V30s and mic'd up with a 57. The other one is just a Fender Twin combo, so it's going to be a 1x12 cabinet. So, and we will hear that it's going to sound really different depending on what you run this through. Lastly, what we will be doing is running it directly into a cabinet and sort of explain why that's my favorite way to actually run the pedal. All the tones you're hearing are coming from my Ibanez AZ. This has bare knuckle brute force pickups, humbucker in the bridge, single coil neck. They are quite high output pickups, so just bear that in mind. Okay, so let's get started. So here's our Soldano clean sound. Okay, so let's play around with some controls. I'm gonna put them to roughly what I usually use for this kind of sound. So let's hear it. So immediately for me, I find that a little bit fizzy. So just taking off some of that presence. And also quite barky in the upper mid range. So I think less treble. Just a little bit more of you know, how I'd use it. It sounds good, and obviously you've got so much tone shaping controls as you would on like a high gain channel, mid, treble, bass, and the presence knob, which is cool. I'm just going to keep the volumes at 12 o'clock just so they're the same volume. Let's play around with the tight control. So for this channel, so this is without the tight control. Let's put it down. So it's quite subtle, and I like to use it on this one in particular. But say, let's go all the way to the top now. So it's way more controlled. It's not controlled, but focused a lot more. So let's do a quick comparison. This is with the tight control all the way up, and then without. So it's a great tool to have, and we can sort of combine it, because what I find is if the tight control is all the way on, it's almost too focused, but I could compensate that by just bringing in more bass. Try increasing the gain a little bit. And I'm actually going to put the tight control back down. And just for the sake of it, let's dime the gain. Again, this thing's got so much gain on hand. So much gain on tap. Let's bring it down to a reasonable level, and let's just play around with my volume control. So all the way up. Let's back it down halfway. maybe on to 3. So loads of usable tones if you're comfortable with changing the volume knob. So, okay, enough of the green channel. Let's move over to the blue side now. I'm just going to mess around with some of these settings. Okay, so let's see what we got. So immediately for me, way too much presence, treble. Again, I'm going to less treble, a little bit more bass, I think. Let's take the tight control off, that probably help. Let's take the gain all the way off to see how clean we can get this. Now there are trim pots inside, you can add or take away gain if you want, but I've just got it stock. In my opinion, if you're going to use this for like really low gain sounds, I'd just get a different pedal and let this do all the high gain stuff. Typically, if I use this, I'll have the blue channels, the lower gain one, more as a tight rhythm sound, because if we dime the gain, we can, it still does, you know, loads of gain. And then if I want some like screaming lead thing, I can go on the green channel. So you've got two different options there. Okay, so switching over now, we've got our Fender Twin. It's quite a barky, bitey sort of Fender typical thing. So at the same settings, roughly, let's just kick on the green channel. So that sounds completely different, obviously, because we're running so different now. So obviously we need to sort of compensate for that. So less treble and upper mids, because the Fender has so much of it. I'm going to boost the low end a bit. So it's a little bit better, but you're not really going to escape the sound of whatever amp you're using. So that's a big thing about using distortion pedals and stuff in general, is really dependent on what amp you have. So for me, because I'm using modeling, I can simulate any clean amp I want. So I can find one that sounds the best with this pedal. And that I do find in myself having to do that. There's only certain styles of amps, in my opinion, that work well with having this. Lastly, let's move on to just the cab section. So I need to boost the volume a little bit because again, there's no preamp. So we're just going directly into a cab sim. Big old 4x12. So let's try it. Immediately, there's no top end. So let's bring all that stuff back in. So boost the treble and presence a little bit. Back off the bass. Let's see what we got. A bit more gain. Bit too much. So for me, instantly, it just sounds way, way better just running it into a cab. The only problem is, say if you want to switch to a clean sound, you can turn the pedal off, but then you need something else for your clean, like an actual amp. So the dilemma is, to me, it sounds best running into a cab, but I can't use that, especially not for live, because it just logistically wouldn't work. So, but I think if, you want a Friedman style overdrive and you have the means to do so with, your audio interface and stuff like that, I think it's a great tool and it sounds phenomenal, really. Yeah, it just sounds absolutely great. Okay, so we've heard all the tones, heard what I think about it and use it in different sort of scenarios and things like that. As I said, you can run it through different amps, find one that works well in conjunction with the pedal. But for me, just running it directly into a cab works the best. And I don't think it was advertised as like a preamp pedal. It is designed to run into the front end of the amp, but if something sounds better, then why would I want to run it actually into a clean amp? So you get a lot in here, don't get me wrong. You've got 2 channels, completely independent controls. You can set them how you want. And it's not that much more expensive than the original Friedman pedal. So it's awesome. And again, if you have like a Fender style amp, you want to try and get some sort of distortion that sounds completely different from that, this will do a great job. You just can't get away from the tone of whatever amp you're using it. So if you have like a really neutral sounding amp, great. This thing can sort of take over and you can dial in exactly what tone you want. I think especially as you start getting into the higher gain stuff, the speakers that you're using or the cab section that you're running play such an important role, because we can run the same style of amp, but if it's going into a very small speaker, you're going to get quite a small boxy sound. Generally why big Marshalls have big cabinets. So if there's any other questions that you might have that I haven't answered in this video, just leave them down in the comment section and I can get back to you. All my socials and my website for lessons are down in the description. I'll also have a link of where you can actually pick this pedal up. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.